Hello, my name is Epic Bubble, and I sometimes go by the name of Simon, and this is a thoughts video. Now, oftentimes I think reviewers have a really tough job when dealing with the amount of board games they basically get access to and they are demanded almost to play, or people expect them to play, because games are sometimes really heavy, have complicated rules, and take a very long time to actually get through. And oftentimes you have to play through it multiple times in order to get the true experience, which is never a good thing, especially since the first time you play should be the best time because you're opening yourself up to a new world of possibilities, and the designer should have made it a really good game, and that should be portrayed to you the first time you play. And now, of course, that's not the case for a lot of things. A lot of things require you to understand the meta of the game, understand how you're supposed to score at the end of a game to really know how to play the game thoroughly. Now, when it came to Heaven and Ale, I kind of felt that I was missing something, and I kind of felt that the next time I would play, I would do better. But at the same point, I didn't want to play next time because my experience wasn't that positive. That's not to say that Heaven and Ale is a badly designed game. No, in fact, I think Michael Kiesling has done a very solid job. It's a very well structured design, but for me, I didn't have fun. Now, there's a few reasons for that. First, let me explain how the game plays. You see, you are essentially running an abbey and you're trying to produce as much beer as possible, or in a more simpler way, you're trying to get all the ingredients so that when 6 rounds ends, you're going to convert those ingredients into points, which are technically beer. To say that the game has a theme and to say that the theme is thrown out the window immediately once you start playing would be an understatement. This game has a theme, and it's never touched on. It's just non-existent. None of the mechanics actually are any relevant to the theme whatsoever, which is kind of a shame because the theme of monks brewing beer in an abbey is pretty cool, I think. You know, just a whole bunch of drunken monks. Sounds like a fantastic idea. However, the game is quite Euro and quite abstract in its approach. You essentially are trying to do two things. You're trying to raise up your resource production, and you're trying to then do certain achievements. On your turn, you're going to be moving your worker around the board, and you're essentially moving into work action spaces and performing those actions. And the action spaces get more and more limited as more and more people play. The action spaces are going to be one of three things. It's either going to be to take achievement objective tiles or achievement tiles, which will score you points at the end of the game. Another thing might be to activate your resources or to activate your monks, which will generate you resources and also score you points. Or the last thing is to actually buy a tile. You see, this game has your own personal player board, which is basically a hill, a good side and a bad side. The bad side produces money for resources, and the good side produces resources for resources. And so that means when you buy a tile as your third action, you can place it down on either side. The trouble is you have to spend money in order to do so. And if you put it on the good side, you have to spend twice as much money. So if you want to buy a tile that, say, produces 5 hops, then you might be paying 10 money. Now, what's the clever thing is, those tiles don't do anything by themselves. You can activate them in two ways. Firstly, there are sheds or shed spaces that you can surround, and once you surround them with basically all the tiles, they will then produce based on the value of the tiles. It's not as clear as it could be. The second thing you can do is, remember, going back to those objective scoring things, you can choose to score or basically produce on a certain resource. So you could say I'm going to produce on all my green tiles, or I'm going to produce on all my water tiles, or I'm going to produce on all my monks, and then they trigger all the tiles around them. So you can almost say double or triple a tile's output through the course of the game. And of course, you're going to be jostling for position on your certain player boards, basically because people are going to be wanting to take those spots. Money is very tight. You have 24 bucks to start with, and you could spend 10 bucks just on one tile itself. So it's kind of a balancing game between getting tiles that will just get you resources to basically score you victory points, or getting tiles on the crappy side of the hill to get you money. The big trouble with this game is it reminds me a lot of Stefan Feld. Now, I again think Stefan Feld is a really good designer. I think he's made some very good games. However, every game I played of his, I've always had the same feeling, and that is, I'm not getting enough out of it. You see, in a lot of Stefan Feld games, you're often doing very small actions for your turn, you're very much doing this like one teeny tiny thing and not getting much out of it, because what you're trying to do is get the one turn where you place down a teeny tiny thing and then all of a sudden your engine comes alive and you spew out a massive amount of resources, or you get a massive amount of victory points, and you just feel like you've just pulled off the best combo ever. My big trouble with that kind of design is it often takes too long to feel rewarded. You feel like every action you're doing is almost you not doing the best action possible, because there's so much to think about, and also because you're essentially, like in this game, paying 10 money to get a tile that might not produce anything, and it doesn't feel particularly rewarding. Heaven and Ale is the same thing, right? You're doing a lot of small things to maybe build an engine that can produce wonderful things. Now, the trick to the game is how you build your engine. You see, if you play like I did, whereas I had a massive engine, but it was just missing a few key parts, and if I could get those few key parts, then this engine would be the best engine ever. I was building a Ferrari, essentially. However, my other friend, he was like, well, you know what? Let me build two engines. I'm going to build a shitty engine that's going to work in the mid game and get me enough so that by the time I have the end game, I can then build my Ferrari engine. I know it's a weird analogy to understand, but that is essentially what's happening. You are doing small little tasks to hopefully get your engine to produce. Now, of course, you are fighting with 4 other players to get to the spots that allow you to activate your engine, or allow you to then activate your tiles and get you resources. The game is pretty miserable. If you make one bad move, or you overpay for a tile and you don't get to use the tile enough times, then it kind of does feel soul crushing. It does feel like you're basically going to be lagging behind. It doesn't help the fact that you can almost see who's going to win the game simply based off how well they make the engine. Now, a big thing I should say is that if you play this game multiple times, you'll have a better understanding of how the game works, when you should be scoring your tiles to get you resources and generate you enough money so that you can continue going on. However, the first game you play of it is probably not going to be an enjoyable experience for a lot of players. And I think that kind of testifies to the fact that this is a good design game, but again, the theme doesn't help it, the abstraction of mechanics doesn't help it either, and you never feel good about any of your choices until maybe you get to pull off your combo. It's very much a chit hell for me in terms of gameplay. It doesn't take too long, thankfully. I mean, you can probably get it done in an hour and a half. But the big trouble for me is there are other games I rather play that have a very similar style to it. There are some cool mechanics that where you move up your brewmaster, and the higher he goes up, the better like recipe he makes at the end, so then you can convert your resources at a better rate to get you more victory points. That's a really nice mechanic. However, those things are few and far between. It also doesn't help when you're just throwing away money and you feel like you did that one turn where you basically missed out one step. It also doesn't help when you like plan 3 moves in advance and then someone takes that one tile and all of a sudden your plans are just scrapped. You can suffer from heavy analysis paralysis in this game. If I sound like I'm going down on the game, I'm not happy with the game, it's pretty much because I'm not happy with the game. I can see it's well designed, but I didn't have fun in my times playing it. I think it's a good design, but you have to be very skeptical of who's going to be buying this game. For me, it's not going to go into my collection. I probably will not want to play it again, and I'll probably choose to play something else every second. If someone said, hey, do you want to play this or Clans of Caledonia? I will say Clans of Caledonia for sure. And that's just a sign that this game is probably going to be left in the dust. I'm sorry to say, I think Michael Kiesling, he's done some good designs. I think Azul was one of his better designs for the year, and people have assured me that Riverboats is better than this. So my question is, why would you ever want to pick up Heaven and Ale when you have other better Michael Kiesling games out there, and you have better games about beer and better games about religion? Anyway, that's going to be it for me. As always, if you have enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like button and, of course, subscribe. I put out videos at least once a week. And maybe leave me your comments. Maybe you do like the theme. Maybe you think the theme does work in this scenario. Or maybe you just want to see monks getting drunk. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.